The lipstick on my husband's collar is Paris Rose, the exact shade he gave me on our first anniversary. I haven't worn it in over a year. My hands won't stop shaking as I stare at the stain. Fresh, still tacky. I'm 6 months pregnant, standing in our penthouse bathroom at 2 a.m. And my billionaire husband is supposed to be at a business dinner. But my phone just lit up with a photo from my best friend, my husband, in Los Angeles, smiling at a blonde woman in a way he's never smiled at me. Not once in 18 months of marriage. I should feel shocked, betrayed, devastated, but all I feel is cold. Because there's a black envelope on the kitchen counter that wasn't there this morning. And somehow, I already know what's inside. My daughter kicks hard against my ribs, like she's trying to warn me. Like she knows what I'm about to discover will change everything. I take one step toward that envelope. My entire world is about to shatter. I just don't know how badly yet. Hey beautiful souls, welcome back to Mr. James' Family Channel. If you love stories about survival, strength, and women who refuse to stay broken, you're in the right place. I'm Mr. James, and today's story is going to wreck you in the best way possible. Before we start, if you believe broken people can build beautiful lives, hit that subscribe button and show me some love. Your support keeps these stories coming. Now buckle up. This one will stay with you long after it ends. Let's begin. The rain hammered against the floor to ceiling windows of the Manhattan penthouse. Elora stood in the laundry room, holding a white silk shirt between trembling fingers. Paris Rose. That shade. The one he'd given her on their first anniversary, wrapped in silver paper with a card that read, "For the woman who makes grey buildings bloom." She'd worn it exactly once. The night she'd waited until 2 a.m. with his favorite lamb roast turning cold on the table. He never came home. Now that same color was smeared across his collar like a brand. Elora pressed the shirt to her chest, felt the baby kick hard against her ribs. 6 months pregnant, and she could barely remember the last time Silas had looked at her. Really looked. Not through her, not past her, but at her, Mrs. Vane. Mrs. Higgins appeared in the doorway, her silver hair pulled into its usual tight bun. The elderly nanny's eyes went soft with recognition. She knew. Of course she knew. "I'm fine," Elora whispered, though her voice cracked. "No, dear, you're not." Mrs. Higgins took the shirt gently, folded it with practiced hands. "But you will be." Elora walked to the living room, that glass cathedral overlooking Central Park. Everything in this apartment was transparent. Everything except her husband's heart. She'd married Silas Vane to save her father's architecture firm from bankruptcy. A business arrangement, he'd called it. Clean, simple, profitable for both parties. She hadn't expected to fall in love with a man made of ice. The elevator chimed. Silas stepped out, his charcoal suit perfectly tailored, his dark hair swept back. 42 years old, and he looked carved from marble. Beautiful and cold. "You're still awake." Not a question. An observation, like noting the weather. "The baby's active tonight." Elora placed a hand on her swollen belly. "She keeps kicking my ribs." Silas loosened his tie, walked to the bar. "I think so. Just a feeling." He poured scotch. Didn't offer her anything. Didn't ask about her day, her doctor's appointment, the nursery she'd been designing alone. "Silas." Her voice came out smaller than she wanted. "Where were you tonight?" "The vault." Business dinner. He didn't turn around. Until midnight. Is there a problem, Elora? Yes. Everything. Nothing. How do you tell someone they're killing you slowly, one indifferent night at a time? No problem. She stood, felt the room spin slightly. Pregnancy made her dizzy sometimes. Or maybe it was just her life now. Silas finally looked at her. His eyes, that pale grey that had once made her breathless, swept over her body with the warmth of a quarterly report. You should rest. You look exhausted. Translation. You look terrible. Elora walked past him toward the bedroom. Paused. I found lipstick on your shirt. The one from Thursday. The silence stretched like pulled taffy. I have no idea what you're talking about. His voice stayed flat. Bored even, she nodded. Of course he didn't. Or wouldn't. Same difference. In the bedroom. She sat on the edge of the California King. They shared but never touched anymore. Her phone buzzed. A text from her best friend Maya in Los Angeles. Girl, you've been quiet. Elora started typing, then stopped. What could she say? That she was drowning in a penthouse made of glass. That her husband treated their unborn child like a quarterly projection. She deleted the message. Lay down. Stared at the ceiling. Through the walls, she heard Silas on the phone. His voice dropped low, intimate in a way it never was with her anymore. Tomorrow night. Yes. The usual suit. Click. Elora closed her eyes. The baby kicked again, harder this time. Like she was trying to punch her way out, to escape before she inherited her mother's talent. For loving the wrong men. I'm sorry. Elora whispered to her daughter. I'm so sorry you're being born into this. The next morning, Mrs. Higgins brought breakfast on a tray. Elora hadn't slept. Dark circles hung under her brown eyes like bruises. Mr. Vane left early. The nanny said carefully. He said he won't be home for dinner. Where did he go? Mrs. Higgins hesitated. I overheard him on the phone with his assistant. Something about finalizing documents. Elora's stomach twisted. What kind of documents? I don't know, dear. But the way Mrs. Higgins wouldn't meet her eyes told Elora everything. Or enough. She spent the day in her home office, trying to work on a landscape design for a corporate plaza in Brooklyn. But the lines kept blurring. Her hand kept shaking. At 3 p.m. her father called. Elora, sweetheart, we need to talk. Her father never called during business hours unless something was catastrophically wrong. What happened? Vane Industries just pulled out of our merger agreement. They're recalling the loan. We have 30 days to repay $6 million or we lose everything. The room tilted. What? That's not possible. Silas promised. Silas Vane doesn't make promises, honey. He makes investments. And apparently, we're no longer profitable. After the call ended, Elora sat in the silence of her glass prison. She understood now. The marriage, the baby, the lipstick, the late nights. She'd been a temporary acquisition, a bridge loan with an expiration date. And that date had just arrived. Her phone buzzed again. Mayev, OMG. Just saw Silas at the Beverly Hills Hotel. What's he doing in LA? Thought he hated the West Coast. Elora's blood went cold. Before she could respond, another text came through. This time a photo. Silas. Standing in the lobby of the Beverly Hills Hotel. His arm around a blonde woman in a white dress that probably cost more than Elora's car. The woman was laughing. Silas was smiling. Elora had never seen him smile like that. Not once in 18 months of marriage. She zoomed in on the photo. The blonde wore a ring. Massive. Diamond. Engagement style. Ellora's vision blurred. She ran to the bathroom. Barely made it before throwing up everything she hadn't eaten that day. When she came out, Mrs. Higgins was standing in her office, holding her phone. The screen still showed the photo. "Oh, my dear girl." The old woman's voice broke. "What has he done to you?" Ellora couldn't speak, could only shake her head. That night, she didn't sleep at all. Just lay in bed, feeling her daughter move inside her, wondering how you explain to a child that her father is a monster who wears expensive suits. At 2 a.m., the elevator opened. Silas came home. Ellora heard him move through the apartment. Pour a drink. Make a phone call. His voice drifted through the walls. "Tomorrow, noon. My lawyer will have the papers ready. Make sure your father handles his part. I want her out by Friday. Papers. Out. Friday." Ellora pressed both hands against her mouth to keep from screaming. The baby kicked. Hard in she was saying, "Fight, Mama. Fight." But Ellora was so tired of fighting a war she'd already lost. Morning came grey and suffocating. Silas was gone before she woke up, but he'd left something on the kitchen counter. A folder. Black leather. Expensive. Inside divorce papers. Already signed by him. Dated 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks. Before her father's loan was recalled. Before the photo in LA. Before any of this exploded. He'd been planning her exit for almost a month. Ellora's hands shook as she read the terms. No alimony. No child support unless paternity was proven through DNA testing. Full custody to be determined pending investigation into her moral fitness. Moral fitness. She almost laughed. Almost. At the bottom, a sticky note in his sharp handwriting of, "Sign by Friday. Don't make this difficult. S. Don't make this difficult." As if she'd been the one making anything difficult. As if loving him quietly, desperately, invisibly for 18 months had been difficult for anyone but her. Her phone rang. Maya, again. "Ellora, you need to see this." Maya's voice was tight, scared. TMZ just posted something about Silas and Genevieve Sterling. Ooh, you don't know her. Old money. Like Mayflower old. Her dad owns half of Manhattan. She and Silas went to boarding school together. Ellora pulled up the article. Her heart stopped. The photo showed them. Same blonde from yesterday. Same smile on Silas's face. Her hand on his chest, showing off that massive diamond. The article was dated last night. Posted at 11 p.m. Pacific. While Ellora was lying in their bed, pregnant with his child, holding divorce papers he'd already signed. She read the quote from Silas. "Jiggy has been the love of my life since we were 16. I'm grateful we found our way back to each other. Love of his life." 16. Found their way back. Ellora had been a placeholder, a human bookmark between chapters of his real story. The room spun. She gripped the counter. The baby kicked, frantic now, like she could feel her mother's heart breaking into pieces too small to ever repair. Mrs. Higgins appeared. Took the phone gently from Ellora's hands. "Pack a bag, dear. You're leaving." "Where would I even go?" "Anywhere but here." Ellora didn't pack a bag. She packed 3 suitcases. Every designer dress Silas had ever bought her still hanging with the tags on. She left them all. Took only the clothes she'd owned before the marriage. The ones that still smelled like her old life, before she'd traded her soul for her father's company. Mrs. Higgins worked silently beside her, folding maternity jeans and soft sweaters. The old woman's hands trembled. Where will you go? Mrs. Higgins whispered. I don't know yet. Alara's voice sounded hollow, empty, like someone had scooped out her insides and left only the shell. Your father's house. Elara laughed. It came out broken. He's losing everything because of me. Because I wasn't valuable enough to keep. I can't face him. This isn't your fault, isn't it? Alara sat on the bed, felt the weight of her daughter pressing down on her pelvis. I knew what this marriage was. A transaction. I just forgot transactions have expiration dates. Mrs. Higgins knelt in front of her, joints cracking. Took Alara's face in her weathered hands. Listen to me. That man out there, he's going to regret this for the rest of his miserable life. And you? You're going to rise like a phoenix and burn down everything he thought he knew about power. Alara wanted to believe her. Wanted to feel that fire. But all she felt was ash. Her phone buzzed. Maya again. Love. Book a flight to LA now. Stay with me. You need to confront him face to face. Confront him. The thought made Alara's stomach twist. But maybe Maya was right. Maybe she needed to look Silas in the eye. Make him see what he'd destroyed. Make him acknowledge that she was real. That their baby was real. That this pain was real. She texted back booking the next flight. 3 hours later, Elara stood in JFK Airport, her belly pressing against the check-in counter. The attendant's eyes went wide. Ma'am, you're how far along? 6 months. Do you have a doctor's note clearing you to fly? Elara hadn't thought about that. Hadn't thought about anything, except the image of Silas smiling at that blonde woman, like she was sunshine and Elara had been nothing but weather. I can get one. She pulled out her phone, called her OB/GYN's emergency line. 20 minutes and one rushed examination at the airport medical center later, she had her clearance. The doctor, a tired woman with kind eyes, had gripped her hand. Whatever you're running from or toward, make sure it's worth your daughter's safety. Elara nodded. But she wasn't sure anymore what was worth what. The flight was torture. 5 hours of turbulence, and a screaming toddler 2 rows back, and her daughter doing gymnastics against her ribcage. Alara closed her eyes, tried to breathe through the panic attacks that kept cresting like waves. What was she doing? Flying across the country to confront a man who'd already erased her from his story. But she had to. Had to make him look at her. Had to make him say the words to her face instead of hiding behind lawyers and lipstick stains. Maya met her at Lax, dressed in a flowing kaftan and oversized sunglasses despite the evening hour. She took one look at Alara and burst into tears. Oh, honey. Oh, no. They held each other in the terminal while travelers flowed around them, like water around stones. He's at the Beverly Hills Hotel, Maya said finally, pulling back. The charity gala is tonight. Black tie, all of LA society, and apparently his new fiancée. Take me there. Alara, you're exhausted. You need to rest. We can confront him tomorrow. Take me there now. Maya studied her face, then nodded. Okay. But we're doing this smart. You're going to walk in there, looking like the queen you are. 2 hours later, Alara stood in Maya's guest bathroom, staring at her reflection. Maya had worked magic. A midnight blue maternity gown that made her brown skin glow. Hair swept up in an elegant twist. Minimal makeup that somehow made her look both fragile and fierce. She looked beautiful. She looked broken. She looked ready for war. The Beverly Hills Hotel rose before them like a pink palace. Valets rushed to open the car door. Elara stepped out, her hand instinctively going to her belly. "You've got this," Maya whispered. "Remember who you are. You're Elara Thorne. You design cities. You create beauty from nothing. He's just a man with a bank account." The ballroom was excessive. Crystal chandeliers dripping light. Tables dressed in white silk. Hundreds of people in diamonds and tuxedos, sipping champagne and pretending to care about whatever charity this was supposedly supporting. Elara scanned the room, found him instantly. Silas stood near the bar, commanding space just by existing. He wore a tuxedo that probably cost more than most people's cars. His grey eyes were sharp, calculating, assessing everyone around him like chess pieces. Next to him, the blonde, Genevieve Sterling. She was everything Elara wasn't. Delicate. Born into the kind of wealth that didn't need to prove anything. She laughed at something Silas said, her hand possessive on his arm. Elara's feet moved before her brain could stop them. The crowd seemed to part. Or maybe that was just her imagination. Maybe people just naturally moved away from disasters in progress. She stopped 3 feet from him, close enough to see his pupils dilate in recognition. Close enough to watch the blood drain from his face. Elara. Her name in his mouth sounded like a curse. "What are you doing here?" "I came to return something." She pulled off her wedding ring, the Tiffany band he'd given her with all the ceremony of signing a contract. Held it out. He didn't take it, just stared at her like she was a ghost he'd already buried. Genevieve stepped forward, her blue eyes ice cold. "Excuse me, who are you?" "I'm his wife." Elara's voice carried. Heads turned. Conversations died. "Wife?" Genevieve's laugh was sharp. "Silas, what is she talking about?" For the first time in their entire marriage, Elara saw Silas falter, saw the mask slip just slightly. "Jiggy, let me explain." "Explain what?" "That you're married. That you have a pregnant wife. That everything you told me about being free, about waiting for me all these years, was a lie." The crowd pressed closer. Phones came out. This was going to be everywhere by morning. Silas grabbed Elara's arm, his fingers dug in hard enough to bruise. "Outside, now." "Don't touch me." She jerked away. The ring fell from her hand, bounced twice on the marble floor. The sound echoed like a gunshot. "You're making a scene," he hissed. "Good, let them see. Let everyone see exactly who you are." His face hardened. That cold, beautiful mask sliding back into place. "I filed for divorce 3 weeks ago. You knew this marriage was temporary? Don't act surprised." Temporary. The word tasted like poison. "Is that what you told yourself?" "That I was just a temporary inconvenience. You were a business arrangement that served its purpose." Elara felt something inside her crack. Not break. Crack. Like ice forming over deep water. "And her." She gestured to Genevieve, who stood frozen, her perfect face twisted in confusion. "What is she?" "Another arrangement. She's the woman I should have married years ago. Before your father came begging for money. Before I made the mistake of thinking I could help you." Help her. As if she'd been some charity case, instead of a woman who'd loved him with every broken piece of her heart. "You didn't help me, Silas. You destroyed me, slowly. Methodically. Like everything else you touch." "If you're done with the dramatics." "I'm not." Elara stepped closer. Close enough to smell his cullen, that cedar and smoke scent that used to make her dizzy. Now it just made her sick. "You want to know something. That lipstick you claim not to know about. Paris rose. You gave it to me. Our first anniversary. The only gift you ever gave me that wasn't designed to keep up appearances. His jaw tightened. I don't remember. I know. That's the problem. I remember everything. Every cold dinner. Every empty bed. Every time you looked through me like I was glass. And you don't remember anything. Not the lipstick. Not me. Not the vows you made. Those vows were part of a contract. They were part of my life! Her voice cracked. The baby kicked hard like she was trying to join the fight. This is your daughter, Silas. Growing inside me. And you look at her like she's a line item in a budget report. Genevieve made a sound. Something between a gasp and a sob. Daughter, you're having his child. Alara turned to her, saw something in the woman's eyes. Not hatred, understanding. Fear, maybe, of becoming the next woman Silas used and discarded. I'm sorry, Alara said softly. I'm sorry you got caught in whatever game he's playing. But trust me, run. Run as far and fast as you can, because this man will hollow you out and wear your skin like a suit. Enough. Silas's voice cut like a blade. Security. 2 men in dark suits materialized. Escort this woman out. She's trespassing. The security guards hesitated. One of them glanced at Elara's belly, clearly uncomfortable. It's okay. Elara picked up her wedding ring from the floor, held it out to Silas one last time. Keep it. Sell it. I don't care. But I want you to know something. She waited until his cold grey eyes met hers. You didn't just lose a wife today, Silas. You lost the only person who actually saw your soul. The only person who looked past the money and the power and the ice and saw something worth saving. I was wrong. There's nothing there to save. You're just empty all the way down. She placed the ring on the nearest table, turned, walked through the silent crowd with her head high and her daughter kicking against her ribs. Made it to the lobby before her knees gave out. Maya caught her, held her while she shook. I've got you, Maya whispered. I've got you. Outside, the LA night was warm and smelled like jasmine. Alara stood on the steps of the Beverly Hills Hotel, breathing hard, feeling her daughter move inside her. A photographer's flash went off nearby. Tomorrow's headlines were already being written. But Alara didn't care. She'd said what she needed to say, looked him in the eye and made him see her. Finally see her. Even if it was only for a moment. Even if it changed nothing. She'd been visible. Real. More than just a ghost in his glass empire. Maya led her to the car. Alara collapsed in the back seat, exhausted. Her phone buzzed. A text from a number she didn't recognize. You have courage. More than I've seen in years. Whatever happens next, don't let him steal that from you. Alara stared at the message. Who? A second text came through. This is Genevieve. I called off the engagement. Thank you for the warning. And I'm sorry for what he did to you. Alara closed her eyes. Felt something warm bloom in her chest. Not quite hope. But maybe the seeds of it. Alara woke in Maya's guest. Room to sunlight streaming through sheer curtains and her daughter, doing what felt like kickboxing practice against her internal organs. Her phone screen showed 43 missed calls. 27 from unknown numbers. 16 from her father. None from Silas. She scrolled through the news alerts. Her face was everywhere. The photos were brutal. Her standing there, belly swollen, face streaked with tears. She didn't remember crying. Silas's expression caught mid-transformation from shock to rage. Genevieve's hand frozen over her mouth. They'd made her look desperate. Unhinged. The scorned wife making a scene. Maybe that's exactly what she'd been. Maya appeared in the doorway with coffee and what looked like homemade croissants. Don't read the comments. I wasn't planning to. Good. Because people are terrible and the internet gives them permission to be worse. Maya sat on the edge of the bed. Your dad called me 6 times. He's worried. Elara's chest tightened. What did you tell him? That you're safe, that you need space, that he should stop partnering his daughter's happiness with his business decisions. Maya, I know, not my place. But someone needed to say it. Maya handed her the coffee. Before you ask. They sat in silence while Elara sipped the coffee and tried to figure out what came next. She'd confronted Silas, burned that bridge to ash. Now what? Her phone rang. Her father. She answered. Dad. Elara, thank God. Where are you? What happened? The news is saying. Everything the news is saying is probably true. Her voice came out flat. Exhausted. Come home. We'll figure this out together. There's nothing to figure out. He filed for divorce. He's destroying your company. He never wanted me. It's over. Silence stretched across the line. Then her father's voice, smaller than she'd ever heard it. I'm sorry, sweetheart. I'm so sorry I put you in this position. You didn't put me anywhere, Dad. I walked into this with my eyes open. I just didn't realize I was signing up for public humiliation and emotional murder. Let me help. Let me hire lawyers. We can fight this. With what money? He recalled the loan, remember? We're broke. Her father made a sound like he'd been punched. Not entirely. I still have the brownstone in Brooklyn. Some savings. Keep it. You're going to need it. Elara closed her eyes. I need to go. Elara, wait. She hung up. Felt like the worst daughter in the world. But she couldn't carry his guilt on top of her own pain. Maya was watching her carefully. What are you thinking? I'm thinking I need a lawyer who doesn't care about Silas Vane's money or reputation. I know someone. Maya pulled out her phone. Riley Chen. She's a shark. Hates men who weaponize their wealth against women. She'd take this case for free, just to watch Silas bleed. 2 hours later, Elara sat in a high-rise office in downtown LA, across from a woman who looked like she'd been forged in fire and sharpened on the bones of terrible men. Riley Chen was 40, maybe. Korean-American, with black hair cut in a severe bob and eyes that missed nothing. She wore a charcoal suit and no wedding ring. Tell me everything, Riley said, sliding a legal pad across the desk. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. Elara talked for 90 minutes. The arranged marriage, the cold indifference, the lipstick, the divorce papers, the public humiliation in LA. Riley took notes in sharp, efficient handwriting. Didn't interrupt. Didn't judge. When Elara finished, Riley sat back in her leather chair and steepled her fingers. You know what he's doing, right? Divorcing me. Destroying you. Systematically. This isn't about ending a marriage. This is about erasing you completely, so there's no evidence he ever made a mistake. Elara's stomach turned cold. Riley pulled out a folder. Thick. Official looking. I did some preliminary research after Maya called. Silas Vane isn't just filing for divorce. He's building a case to prove your daughter isn't his. That's insane. I've never even looked at another man. I know. But look at this. Riley spread documents across the desk. Photos. Timestamps. Security footage stills. Alara stared. The images showed her in her building's community garden, talking to Daniel, the landscaper. A young guy, maybe 25, who'd helped her design the rooftop herb garden she'd installed last spring. In the photos, they were laughing, his hand on her shoulder, her smiling up at him. Completely innocent, completely damning when framed the right way. These are fake. Daniel is gay. He's engaged to his boyfriend. We were just... I believe you, but a jury won't care. They'll see a young, attractive man touching a lonely, neglected wife. They'll see reasonable doubt. And that's all Silas needs to avoid paying child support. Alara felt the room spin. This is insane. This is strategy, and it gets worse. Riley pulled out another document. Your father's company. The loan recall. That wasn't random. What are you talking about? Arthur Sterling. Genevieve's father. He owns the bank that issued your father's loan. He and Silas have been business partners for years. They planned this together. The pieces clicked into place. The timeline, the coordination, the cruelty of it all. They bankrupted my father to force me into the divorce. Exactly. Make you desperate. Make you vulnerable. Make you sign whatever papers they put in front of you just to protect your family. Alara's hands shook. Why? Why go through all this effort? He could have just divorced me quietly. Because you're a threat. Riley leaned forward. You're brilliant, Alara. Your landscape architecture portfolio is stunning. You have connections in the industry. If this divorce went public without his narrative already in place, people might actually listen to your side, might see him as the villain. So he made me the villain first. Preemptive strike. Classic Vane strategy. He did the same thing to his last business partner. Destroyed the man's reputation before filing the lawsuit. By the time the case went to court, no one believed anything the partner said. Alara pressed both hands to her belly. Her daughter was quiet now, like she could feel her mother's fear and was trying to stay small. Stay safe. What do I do? Riley's smile was sharp enough to cut glass. You fight back, and you fight dirty. Over the next 3 hours, Riley laid out a strategy. They'd file for divorce first, flipping the narrative. They'd subpoena the security footage, prove the photos were taken out of context. They'd investigate the Sterling, Vane connection, expose the conspiracy to destroy her father's business. It won't be easy, Riley warned. Silas has resources we don't. But he also has something we can use against him. What? Arrogance. He thinks you're already beaten. He thinks you'll sign whatever papers he sends, take whatever scraps he offers, and disappear quietly. We're going to prove him wrong. Alara left the office feeling something she hadn't felt in months. Not hope, exactly, but purpose, direction. A path forward that wasn't just survival, but resistance. Maya was waiting in the car, scrolling through her phone. She looked up when Alara climbed in. Well, we're going to war? Maya grinned. Good. I'll get the ammunition. They drove back to Maya's house in Santa Monica, the Pacific Ocean glittering in the afternoon sun. Alara stared out the window, watching the palm trees blur past, trying to process everything Riley had told her. Her phone buzzed. A text from Mrs. Higgins. Ah? Mr. Vane returned to the penthouse this morning. He's instructed me to pack your remaining belongings. and have them sent to storage. He says you have 1 week to claim them, or they'll be disposed of. I'm so sorry, dear. Disposed of. Like trash. Like evidence of a crime. Elora texted back Don't apologize. And don't pack anything. I'm coming back to New York tomorrow. Mrs. Higgins responded immediately. Are you sure that's wise? Probably not. But I'm done being wise. I'm going to get my things myself. And I'm going to look him in the eye one more time. Be careful. He's different since LA colder. His lawyer was here this morning. A man named Marcus Holt. Very intimidating. Marcus Holt. Elora knew that name. Manhattan's most ruthless divorce attorney. The man who'd helped 3 different billionaires hide assets and destroy their ex-wives in court. Silas was bringing out the big guns. So was she. That night, Elora lay in Maya's guest bed, unable to sleep. Her daughter kicked and rolled, restless. Maybe she could feel the storm coming. I'm going to protect you, Elora whispered to her belly. I promise. Whatever it takes. He's not going to erase us. Her phone lit up. An email. From an address she didn't recognize. Subject, we own NETOCETES. No text in the body. Just an attachment. A PDF. Elora's finger hovered over it. This could be anything. Malware. A trap. Another photo designed to destroy her. But curiosity won. She opened it. The document was a contract, dated 2 years ago, between Silas Vane and Arthur Sterling. She scanned the dense legal language, her heart pounding faster with each paragraph. It was a partnership agreement. Vane Industries and Sterling Capital joining forces to acquire distressed properties in Manhattan. The terms were standard until page 7. A CLUC in the event that Vane requires liquid capital exceeding 50M for the acquisition of Targetco properties, Sterling agrees to provide bridge financing through Merchant Trust Bank. Said financing will be secured against the business assets of Thomas Thorne Architecture, contingent upon Vane's marital union with Elora Thorne. Upon dissolution of the arrangement, Sterling will execute the recall of all outstanding loans to Thomas Thorne Architecture, rendering the firm insolvent and forcing asset liquidation. Proceeds from said liquidation will be divided. 60% Vane Industries, 40% Sterling Capital. Elora read it 3 times. Each time the words got sharper, crueler. Her marriage hadn't just been arranged. It had been weaponized from the beginning. The plan was always to destroy her father. She'd just been the bait. And when Silas was done using her, when the real estate deal was finalized, he'd triggered Clause 14. Divorced her. Bankrupted her father. Profited from both. She scrolled to the bottom. Both signatures were there. Silas Vane, Arthur Sterling. Dated 6 months before Silas proposed to her. A second email came through. Same anonymous sender. This is what you're fighting. This is who he is. Use it wisely. Elora forwarded everything to Riley Chen. Added one line knife. I think we just found our smoking gun. Riley responded in 30 seconds. Holy shit. Where did you get this? No idea. Anonymous sender. Doesn't matter. If this is real, Silas is finished. This is fraud, conspiracy, possibly racketeering. Forward this to me immediately. Elora did, then sat in the dark, her daughter kicking against her ribs, staring at the contract that proved she'd never been a wife. She'd been a weapon, one that Silas had aimed at her own family and fired. The flight back to New York felt like traveling through a nightmare. Every person who recognized Elora from the viral photos whispered, and pointed. A flight attendant asked for a selfie, then seemed embarrassed when Elara's face remained stone cold. "I'm sorry," the woman stammered. You're so brave. What you did in LA. My sister went through something similar." Elara nodded, said nothing. Brave wasn't the word. Broken, maybe. Desperate. Furious. But not brave. Maya had wanted to come with her. But Elara refused. This was something she needed to do alone. Face the ruins of her marriage. Collect the pieces of her life. Look Silas in his cold, grey eyes and show him the contract. Watch him realize she knew everything. Mrs. Higgins met her at the penthouse entrance, her face creased with worry. "He's not here," the nanny said quickly. "He's been at the office since 5 this morning, but his lawyer is upstairs, waiting for you." Marcus Holt stood in the living room like he owned it. 60 years old, silver hair. Suit that probably cost more than a car. He had the face of a man who'd spent decades crushing people in courtrooms and enjoyed every second. "Mrs. Vane." His voice was smooth, practiced. "Thank you for agreeing to meet with me. I didn't agree to anything. Nonetheless, I appreciate your time." He gestured to the couch. "Please, sit. We have much to discuss." Elara remained standing. Her daughter kicked, hard, like she was telling her mother not to show weakness. Marcus smiled, not warmly. "I'll be direct. My client is prepared to offer you a settlement. $1 million. Full medical coverage for the child until age 18. In exchange, you sign the divorce papers, agree to a paternity test, and sign a non-disclosure agreement regarding the marriage." 1 million. A number that would have seemed massive 2 years ago. Now it felt like an insult. What happens if the paternity test proves she's his? Then child support will be calculated according to New York state guidelines. Approximately $4,000 monthly. 4,000. Silas spent more than that on wine. "And if I refuse?" Marcus's smile sharpened. "Then we proceed to litigation. Discovery. Depositions. Public testimony about your relationship with Daniel Ramirez, the landscaper. Expert witnesses questioning your mental stability. Forensic accountants examining every dollar your father's failing company received from Vane Industries." He pulled a folder from his briefcase, slid it across the glass coffee table. "We have evidence that you've been emotionally unstable throughout the pregnancy. Multiple witnesses who can testify to erratic behavior, mood swings, and inappropriate relationships with staff members." Elara picked up the folder, flipped through it. Statements from building employees she barely knew. A doorman claiming she'd screamed at him over a delayed package. A housekeeper saying she'd found Elara crying in the bathtub at 3 a.m. The building manager describing her as withdrawn and paranoid. All true. All completely out of context. "You're building a case to take my daughter." "We're building a case to protect my client's interests. If the child is his, he has rights. But given the questionable circumstances of conception, we believe it's prudent to establish paternity before making any long-term commitments." Questionable circumstances. Elara's voice came out deadly quiet. "You mean the fact that I was married to him? That we lived together? That this child is the result of the only time in 18 months he actually touched me?" Marcus didn't flinch. "I mean the evidence suggesting you engaged in an extramarital relationship with Mr. Ramirez during the relevant time frame." "Daniel is gay. Engaged. completely uninterested in women. We have photographs suggesting otherwise. You have photographs taken out of context by someone working for your client. Prove it. Marcus stood, buttoned his suit jacket. You have 48 hours to accept the settlement, Mrs. Vane. After that, the offer drops to 500,000. After 1 week, it drops to 250,000. After that, we go to court, and you get nothing, legal bills you can't afford, and a custody battle you can't win. He walked toward the elevator, paused. One more thing. Your father's company. The bankruptcy proceedings begin next Monday. If you want to save him from complete financial ruin, I suggest you consider what's more important, your pride or your family's survival. The elevator doors closed. Elara stood alone in the penthouse, shaking. Mrs. Higgins emerged from the kitchen, her face pale. How much did you hear? All of it. The old woman's hands twisted together. That man is evil. Same thing. Elara sank onto the couch. Her daughter was quiet now. Too quiet, like she was hiding. Mrs. Higgins sat beside her. What will you do? I don't know. Elara pulled out her phone, opened the anonymous email containing the contract. But I have this. Proof that Sealers and Arthur Sterling planned everything. Did that come from someone who wants to help or hurt Sealers? Maybe both. Her phone, Riley Chen. I've analyzed the contract, Riley said without preamble. It's real. I verified the notary seal, cross-referenced the signatures against public documents. This is legitimate evidence of fraud and conspiracy. Can we use it? Absolutely. But there's a problem. We don't know how you obtained it. If Silas claims it was stolen, privileged attorney, client communication, anything like that, a judge might suppress it. So it's useless? Not useless, but risky. We need to be strategic about when and how we deploy it. Riley paused. Elara, I got a call this morning. From Marcus Holt. He made me an offer. Elara's stomach dropped. What kind of offer? The kind that comes with a lot of zeros and a strong suggestion that I'd drop you as a client. Are you going to? Riley laughed, sharp and bitter. No. I've been waiting years for a chance to destroy Marcus Holt in court. He ruined my sister in her divorce 10 years ago. Left her with nothing and took her kids. This is personal now. Something warm bloomed in Elara's chest. Not quite hope, but solidarity. Someone fighting for her who wasn't being paid. Someone who actually cared. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Thank me when we win. Riley's voice turned serious. But you need to understand what you're signing up for. This is going to get ugly. They're going to dig up everything. Every mistake you've ever made. Every moment of weakness. They're going to paint you as unstable, manipulative, a gold digger who trapped a billionaire with a fake pregnancy. It's not fake. I know. But they'll make people doubt it anyway. That's what they do. Elara closed her eyes. Felt her daughter shift inside her. Felt the weight of what came next pressing down like gravity. I can handle it. I believe you. Now, here's what we're going to do. Riley outlined the strategy. File their own divorce petition, first thing Monday morning. Include allegations of emotional abuse and financial manipulation. Request temporary spousal support and full medical coverage. Subpoena the building's security footage to prove the photos were taken out of context. And hold the contract in reserve. Their nuclear option. After the call, Elara stood in the penthouse, looking out at Central Park. The glass walls that had once felt elegant now felt like a cage. Transparent. Exposed. Nowhere to hide. Mrs. Higgins appeared with tea. "You should pack your things, dear, before he comes home." Elara started toward the bedroom. Stopped. "Mrs. Higgins, can I ask you something?" "Of course." "Why are you helping me? You work for Silas. You've been with him for years. Why risk your job for someone you barely know?" The old woman's eyes went soft, sad. "Because I worked for his mother before him. Margaret Vane, beautiful woman. Kind. She married his father for love, you see, and that man destroyed her, piece by piece, until she was just a ghost haunting this very apartment." "What happened to her?" "She died when Silas was 16. The official story was heart failure. But I was here. I saw the pills. The vodka bottles hidden in the closet. The bruises she covered with makeup." Mrs. Higgins touched Elara's cheek. "You remind me of her. That same gentle strength. That same hope that love could change a cruel man. It can't, can it?" "No, dear, it can't. Men like Silas and his father, they don't change. They just find new people to break." Elara felt tears burning behind her eyes. "I won't let him break me." "I know. That's why you're different from Margaret. You're fighting back." They packed in silence. Elara's clothings, her design portfolio, the few personal items she'd brought to this glass prison. Everything fit in 3 suitcases. 18 months of marriage reduced to luggage. She was closing the last suitcase when she heard it. The elevator. Her heart stopped. Silas emerged, still in his work suit, his phone pressed to his ear. He saw her, saw the suitcases. His expression didn't change. He ended the call. "You're leaving?" "Obviously." "Marcus said you refused the settlement. Your settlement was an insult. It was generous, more than you deserve." He walked to the bar, poured scotch. His movements were precise, controlled, like he was performing surgery. "More than I deserve." Elara's voice shook. "I gave you 18 months of my life. I loved you. I carried your child. And you think $1 million and a gag order is generous. You didn't love me. You loved what I represented. Securitas, money. That's what you think? After everything." Silas turned, glass in hand. His grey eyes were empty. "I think you're a smart woman who made a calculated decision. Just like I did. Don't pretend this was ever about emotions." Elara pulled out her phone, opened the contract, held it up so he could see. Clause 14. Collateral obligations. The arrangement. Sound familiar? His face went perfectly still. For the first time in their marriage, she saw genuine emotion flicker across his features. Not guilt. Not shame. Fear. "Where did you get that?" "Does it matter? I have it. I know everything. The partnership with Arthur Sterling. The plan to bankrupt my father. The timeline. You proposed to me 6 months after signing this contract. 6 months after you and Sterling decided to use my marriage as collateral for your real estate deal. That document is privileged. That document is evidence of fraud. Conspiracy. You didn't just use me, Silas. You weaponized me against my own family." He set down the glass, walked toward her. Elara held her ground even though every instinct screamed to run. He stopped inches away, close enough that she could see the flecks of blue in his grey eyes, close enough to smell the scotch on his breath. "If you go public with that contract, I will destroy you. Your father, your career, everything you've ever cared about. I will make sure you never work in architecture again. I will tie you up in court for years. I will take that child the second she's born, and you will never see her again." Elora looked up at him. This man she'd loved. This stranger she'd married. "You're right about one thing," she said softly. "I did make a calculated decision 18 months ago. I decided that saving my father's company was worth marrying a man I barely knew. I was wrong. But you know what? I'm making a new calculation now." "What's that?" "That destroying you is worth losing everything else." She grabbed her suitcases, walked to the elevator. Her hands shook so badly she could barely press the button. Behind her, Silas didn't move, didn't speak. The elevator doors opened. Elora stepped inside. As the doors began to close, she heard his voice, quiet, almost human. "Elora." She looked up. Their eyes met. "That baby, if she's mine, I want to know." Something in his voice cracked. Just slightly. Just enough. "You'll know," Elora said. "But it won't matter. Because she'll never call you father. She'll never know you. You threw that away when you chose money over everything else." The doors closed. Elora made it to the lobby before her knees gave out. The night doorman rushed over, but she waved him away. Outside, the November air cut through her coat. She stood on the sidewalk, 3 suitcases beside her, her daughter kicking inside her belly. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You were magnificent. He's terrified. Don't stop now." The anonymous helper, whoever they were. Elora texted back, "Who are you?" 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again, finally. Someone who knows what it's like to be destroyed by Silas Vane. Someone who wants to watch him burn. "You're not alone in this fight, Elora." Before she could respond, a black SUV pulled up to the curb. A woman, late 30s. Dark hair, expensive clothes. Familiar somehow, Elora thought. "Yes?" "Get in. We need to talk." "I don't even know who you are." "My name is Veronica Reeves. I was Silas's business partner 5 years ago. Until he destroyed my company, ruined my reputation, and left me bankrupt." The woman's smile was sharp, cold. "And I'm the one who sent you that contract. Now get in. We have a war to plan." The SUV smelled like leather and expensive perfume. Veronica Reeves drove with the controlled aggression of someone who'd learned to navigate Manhattan traffic while simultaneously navigating corporate warfare. Elora sat in the passenger seat, one hand protectively over her belly, the other gripping the door handle like a lifeline. "Where are we going?" "Somewhere Silas can't track us. Somewhere we can talk without his security cameras, his lawyers, his spies." Veronica glanced over. "You'd be surprised how many people he has watching you." "I wouldn't, actually." They drove in silence through the Manhattan streets, past the glittering towers where people who looked like Silas made fortunes, while people like Elora became collateral damage. The city felt different now, less magical, more predatory. Veronica pulled into an underground parking garage in Tribeca, led Elora to a private elevator that required a key card. They rode up in silence. The apartment was stunning, minimalist. All clean lines and floor, to ceiling windows overlooking the Hudson River. But it felt empty somehow, like a beautiful shell with nothing living inside. "Coffee. Tea? I have herbal things for." Veronica gestured vaguely at Elora's belly. "Water is fine." They sat in the living room. Veronica curled into an armchair like a cat. predatory, watchful. You want to know why I'm helping you? The thought crossed my mind. Veronica pulled out her phone, showed Elara a photo. A younger version of herself, maybe 32, standing in front of a building with REVSTH salute emblazoned across the entrance. She looked happy, confident. Olive. That was 6 years ago. I'd built a cybersecurity company from nothing. We were the best in the business. Fortune 500 clients. Government contracts. I was on the cover of Forbes. She swiped to the next photo. The same building, but with bankruptcy notices plastered across the doors. Veronica standing in front of it, looking like someone had hollowed her out. That was 5 years ago, 3 months after I partnered with Silas Vane. Elara's throat tightened. What happened? What always happens with Silas? He approached me at a tech conference. Charming. Interested in my work. Said he wanted to invest, help me expand. I was flattered, stupid. I let him into my company. Veronica stood, walked to the window. Her reflection in the glass looked ghostly. 6 months later, I discovered he'd been systematically stealing my client list, my proprietary software, even my employees. He'd set up a shell company, offered everyone 20% raises to jump ship. By the time I realized what was happening, I'd lost everything. Why didn't you sue? I tried. He had better lawyers, deeper pockets. He buried me in motions and continuances until I couldn't afford to fight anymore. Then he spread rumors that I was unstable. A scorned business partner who couldn't handle competition. The tech world is small. No one would work with me after that. I'm sorry. Veronica turned. Her eyes were hard, bright with something that looked like fever. Don't be sorry. Be angry. Be vengeful. Because that's the only way you survive men like Silas. Elara touched her belly, felt her daughter move. I don't want to be vengeful. I just want to protect my child. Then you need to destroy him first, because he won't stop until he's erased every trace of you. Veronica sat back down, leaned forward. That contract I sent you, that's just the beginning. I've been collecting evidence on Silas for 5 years, waiting for the right moment, the right person to help me bring him down. Why me? Because you're pregnant. Because you're sympathetic. Because when you walked into that gala in LA and handed him your ring, you became the face of every woman he's ever destroyed. You made it personal instead of just business. That's powerful. Elara wasn't sure if she felt empowered or used. Maybe both. What kind of evidence? Veronica pulled out a laptop, opened files. Bank records showing he's been hiding assets in offshore accounts. Emails proving he bribed city officials to secure real estate deals. Testimony from former employees about sexual harassment settlements he's paid to keep quiet. And the crown jewel. She turned the screen, showed Elara a video file. What is this? Security footage from the vault. The club where Silas spends his nights. Watch. Veronica hit play. The timestamp showed 3 months ago. The video showed a private room. Silas on a leather couch with Genevieve Sterling. They were close, intimate. His hand on her thigh, her lips on his neck. Elara's stomach turned. 3 months ago. When she was 3 months pregnant. When he was still coming home and sleeping in their bed and pretending they were. Something resembling a marriage. How did you get this? The club's head of security owed me a favor. Silas thinks he's untouchable in there. thinks the club's discretion agreements protect him. But money talks louder than loyalty. The video continued. Genevieve pulled back, said something. Silas laughed. Actually laughed. The sound made Alara's chest ache because she'd never heard him laugh like that. Free, genuine, happy. Then Genevieve's voice, caught by the security microphone. When are you going to tell her? Your little architect wife. Silas's response. When it stops being profitable to keep her. Alara closed her eyes. Heard those words echo in her skull. When it stops being profitable. She'd been a line item. An investment. A temporary asset. There's more, Veronica said gently. But I think that's enough for now. Alara opened her eyes. Why are you really doing this? It can't just be revenge. Veronica's face softened, just slightly. 3 years ago, I met someone. A therapist. She helped me realize that Silas hadn't just destroyed my company. He destroyed my ability to trust, to connect, to believe I deserved anything good. I've been in therapy ever since, trying to rebuild myself. She paused. Last month, my therapist asked me a question. She said, "What would closure look like for you?" And I realized, closure isn't moving on. It's watching him face consequences, real ones. Not just lost money, but lost reputation, lost power, lost everything he values. That's still revenge. Maybe, but it's also justice. Elara's phone buzzed. A text from Riley Chen. We need to meet. Tomorrow morning. Something's happened. Elara showed Veronica the message. My lawyer, Riley Chen. She's excellent. Took down a hedge fund manager last year for $500 million in divorce court. Veronica smiled. You're in good hands. Will you come to the meeting? Share the evidence you have. Absolutely. But on one condition. What? When this is over, when Silas is destroyed, and you've rebuilt your life, you pay it forward. Find another woman he's hurt and help her. Keep the cycle going. Make sure he never stops paying for what he's done. Alara thought about that. About becoming part of something larger than her own pain. A network of survivors, turning their wounds into weapons. Okay, I promise. They talked for another hour. Veronica shared more details about Silas's business practices. The bribes, the threats, the systematic way he identified vulnerable people and exploited them. She had names, dates, documentation. It was almost midnight when Veronica drove Alara to a boutique hotel in Soho, paid for a suite. Refused to let Alara go back to her father's house or Maya's place in LA. Silas will look for you in obvious places. Stay here tonight. Tomorrow we regroup. In the hotel room, Alara stood at the window, looking out at the city lights. Her daughter kicked. Strong, insistent. I know, baby girl, Alara whispered. You want out. You want to be born into a better world than this. I'm trying. I promise I'm trying. Her phone rang. Her father. Alara, where are you? Mrs. Higgins called. She said you left the penthouse. Are you okay? I'm fine, Dad. I'm safe? Please, we'll figure this out together. I can't. Not yet. But I need to ask you something. Anything. The contract with Silas. The loan. Did you know what he was planning? Silence stretched across the line. Too long. Too heavy. Dead. I knew it was conditional. I knew the marriage was part of the deal. But I didn't know about Clause 14. I swear, Alara. I didn't know he planned to destroy us anyway. But you knew the marriage wasn't real. You knew I was just collateral. Thought. Her father's voice cracked. I thought maybe you'd fall in love. That it would become real. That we'd all benefit. You sold me, Dad. You sold your daughter to save your company. And it didn't even work. Ilara, please. I have to go. Wait. There's something else. Something you need to know. Ilara's heart hammered. What? A man came to see me today. Said he was an investigator working for Silas's legal team. He asked questions about your childhood, your college years, any history of mental health issues, substance abuse, anything they could use against you in court. What did you tell him? Nothing. I threw him out. But Ilara, they're building a case. Not just for divorce, but to prove you're unfit. They're going to try to take your baby. Ilara sank onto the bed, felt the walls closing in. They can try. They won't succeed. How can you be so sure? Because I'm not fighting alone anymore. After the call, Ilara tried to sleep. Failed. Her mind raced through everything Veronica had told her. Everything Riley had planned. Everything Silas was planning. At 2 a.m., another text from the anonymous number. You met Veronica. Good. Trust her. But be careful. Silas knows about her vendetta. He'll use it to discredit anything she provides. You need more than just her testimony. Ilara texted back, like what? Like witnesses who are still in his orbit. People he thinks are loyal. I'm working on that. But it takes time. Someone who loved him once. Someone who learned the hard way that Silas Vane doesn't know how to love back. Sleep, Ilara. You'll need your strength. Plus, the next morning, Ilara met Riley and Veronica at a coffee shop in the West Village. Riley took one look at Veronica's evidence and her eyes went wide. This is incredible. This is more than enough to what? A voice cut through the conversation. Male. Familiar. Ilara turned. Her blood turned to ice. Marcus Holt stood 3 feet away, flanked by 2 men in dark suits. He smiled. Ladies, what an interesting breakfast meeting. Riley stood. This is a private conversation, and yet you're having it in public, which makes anything I overhear fair game. Marcus's eyes locked on Veronica. Reeves. Still obsessed with my client, I see. Still protecting criminals, I see. Veronica shot back. Marcus pulled out his phone. Took a photo of the 3 of them sitting together. Thorne. I'll be filing a motion with the court this afternoon, alleging that you're colluding with a known adversary of my client to manufacture evidence. This photograph will be Exhibit A. We're not manufacturing anything. Prove it. In court, where a judge can determine whether evidence obtained through questionable means is admissible. He nodded to the men beside him. Good day, ladies. See you in court. They left. Ilara's hands shook so badly she spilled her tea. He was following me, she whispered. He knew I'd be here. Or following me, Veronica said darkly. He's been tracking me for years. Riley's jaw was tight. This complicates things. But it doesn't change the fundamental strategy. We just need to be more careful about how we present the evidence. Careful. Ilara laughed. It sounded broken. I'm 6 months pregnant, homeless, and being hunted by a billionaire's legal team. How much more careful can I be? Riley reached across the table, gripped Ilara's hand. Listen to me. You're not homeless. You have resources. You have people fighting for you. And most importantly, you have the truth. That matters. Does it? Because from where I'm sitting, truth doesn't seem to matter much against money and power. It matters when we make it matter. Riley pulled out her own files. I've been doing some digging. Silas isn't as untouchable as he thinks. His company is leveraged to the hilt. He's taken out massive loans to finance his latest real estate project in Hudson Yards. If that project fails, he's looking at bankruptcy. How does that help us? Because his investors don't know about his personal scandals. They think he's stable, reliable. If we go public with the right information at the right time, we can spook them, make them pull their funding, collapse his empire from the inside. Veronica leaned forward. You want to destroy his business. Not just win the divorce. I want to level the playing field. Right now. He has all the power because he has all the money. Take away the money, and he's just another failed marriage with a PR problem. Elora thought about it. About Silas losing everything the way she had. About him standing in the ruins of his glass empire, finally understanding what destruction felt like. How do we make that happen? Riley smiled. We give an exclusive interview to the right journalist. Someone with credibility. Someone who can't be bought or intimidated. We tell your story. The contract. The conspiracy. The emotional abuse. All of it. And we do it before Silas can control the narrative. That's risky. Veronica warned. If it backfires, you'll look like you're trying to manipulate public opinion. Everything about this is risky, Elora said quietly. But Riley's right. I can't beat him in his world. I need to change the battlefield. Her daughter kicked. Hard, like she was agreeing. Riley pulled out her phone. I know someone. Journalist at the New York Times. She specializes in exposing corporate malfeasance and powerful men who abuse their positions. She's been wanting to write about Silas for years, but couldn't get anyone to go on record. What's her name? Diane Whittaker. She's tough. Fair. She won't sensationalize your pain, but she won't pull punches either. Elora took a deep breath. Set up the meeting. 3 hours later, Elora sat across from Diane Whittaker in a conference room at the Times building. The journalist was 50-something, grey hair cut short, eyes that had seen every type of human cruelty and still somehow maintained compassion. Tell me everything, Diane said, placing a recorder on the table. Start from the beginning. Don't leave anything out. So Elora talked. For 3 hours, she told her story. The arranged marriage, the lipstick, the contract, the public humiliation, the conspiracy to destroy her father. The evidence Veronica had collected. Diane took notes, asked questions, verified facts, cross-referenced dates. At the end, she sat back. This is going to be a major story. Page, possibly multiple parts. Are you prepared for what comes next? What comes next? Silas Vane will use every resource at his disposal to discredit you. His PR team will paint you as a gold digger, a liar, mentally unstable. They'll dig up every mistake you've ever made and broadcast it. Your life will be examined under a microscope. Is that something you can handle? Elora placed both hands on her belly, felt her daughter moving, strong, alive, fighting to exist in a world that seemed determined to erase her before she was even born. I can handle it. For her. Diane nodded. Then we publish in 3 days. That gives me time to verify everything and gives you time to prepare. Once this goes live, there's no going back. The article went live at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday morning. Elora sat in the hotel suite watching her phone explode. Text messages, emails, calls from numbers she didn't recognize. News alerts pinging every 30 seconds. The article was everywhere. Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, cable news running segments. Her photo next to Silas's. The contract displayed in stark black and white. Diane Whittaker had done her job perfectly. Every fact verified. Every claim supported by documentation. The story wasn't sensational, it was surgical. Precise. Devastating. By 8 a.m., Silas's PR team had issued a statement of the allegations made by Mems Thorne are categorically false and represent a desperate attempt to extort money from Mr. Vane during divorce proceedings. Mr. Vane has been nothing but generous to Ms. Thorne and her family, and he will vigorously defend himself against these baseless accusations. Riley called at 8:15. Have you seen the response? Just read it? Good. Let them keep talking. Every word they say just digs the hole deeper. Riley sounded energized, alive. I've already had 3 calls from other women, former employees of Silas who want to come forward with their own stories of harassment and retaliation. Really? Your courage gave them courage. That's how this works. One person speaks up, others find their voice. By noon, the story had shifted. It wasn't just about Ella anymore. Other names emerged, other victims. A former assistant who'd been fired after refusing Silas's advances. A business partner who'd been systematically destroyed when he questioned an illegal deal. An architect who'd had her designs stolen and used without credit or compensation. The pattern was undeniable. Silas Vane wasn't just a ruthless businessman. He was a predator. Veronica called at 1 p.m. Have you seen the stock price? Ella pulled up the market data. Vane Industries had dropped 17% in 6 hours. Investors were panicking. His board called an emergency meeting. Veronica continued. They're discussing whether to remove him as CEO. The Hudson Yards investors are threatening to pull their funding. He's losing millions by the hour. Good, Alara. You need to be careful. Wounded animals are dangerous. Silas is going to lash out, and you're the easiest target. As if summoned by prophecy, Elara's phone rang. Unknown number, she answered. Hello. You think you've won? Silas's voice was ice. Pure. Cold. Lethal. You think going to the press makes you brave. I think telling the truth makes me honest. Something you wouldn't understand. The truth. Sharp. Bitter. You want truth. Here's truth. That baby you're carrying. I'm filing for full custody the second she's born. I'm going to prove you're an unfit mother. Unstable. Vindictive. Willing to destroy your child's father for money and attention. You can't. I can do whatever I want. I have resources you can't imagine. Lawyers, doctors, experts who will testify that you're a danger to that child. And when I win, you'll get supervised visitation twice a month. If you're lucky. Elara's vision blurred. You don't even want her. This is just about hurting me. This is about showing you what happens when you cross me. You wanted war. Congratulations. You have it. He hung up. Elara sat frozen, phone pressed to her ear, listening to dead air. Her daughter kicked, like she could feel her mother's terror. Riley arrived 30 minutes later with Veronica. They found Elara sitting on the bathroom floor, arms wrapped around her knees, rocking slightly. He's going to take her, Alara whispered. He's going to take my baby. Riley knelt beside her. No, he's not. That was a threat designed to scare you. Judges don't give custody to fathers who abandon pregnant wives and commit fraud. He has money. Money wins. Not always. Not when the evidence is this strong. Riley pulled out her phone. I've been in contact with the DA's office. They're reviewing the contract for potential criminal charges. fraud, conspiracy, racketeering. If they file charges, Silas won't be fighting for custody. He'll be fighting to stay out of prison. Will they actually file? They're considering it. The publicity helps. The more pressure on Silas, the more likely the DA moves forward. Veronica sat on the other side of Elara. I know you're scared. I was terrified when Silas came after me. But you have something I didn't have. You have people. You're not alone. Elara wanted to believe them, but fear had its claws in deep. That evening, another woman came forward. This one was different. Her name was Claire Donovan, 45. Former vice president at Vane Industries. She'd worked with Silas for 8 years before he fired her 3 years ago. She appeared on national television. Poised, articulate, devastating. Silas Vane is a monster, she said calmly. I watched him destroy people for entertainment. He'd identify their weaknesses and exploit them. If you had debt, he'd find a way to make it worse. If you had a struggling marriage, he'd seduce your spouse. If you had ambition, he'd promise you everything and deliver nothing. The interviewer leaned forward. Why didn't you speak up before? Because I was afraid. He threatened to ruin my career if I ever talked, and he had the power to do it. But watching what he's doing to Elara Thorne, watching him try to take her child, I realized silence makes me complicit. So I'm here. On record. Let him try to destroy me now. I'm done being afraid. The interview went viral. Within hours, I Believe Elara was trending. Women sharing their own stories of powerful men who'd weaponized their wealth and position. Silas's world was cracking, visibly, publicly, irreparably. But he wasn't done fighting. At 11 p.m., Marcus Holt held a press conference. He stood behind a podium, flanked by doctors and character witnesses, and systematically attempted to dismantle Elara's credibility. Thorne has a documented history of emotional instability, he claimed. Medical records show she sought treatment for depression and anxiety during her marriage. She became increasingly paranoid, accusing my client of infidelity without evidence. She stalked him to Los Angeles and created a public disturbance at a private event. He presented testimony from building staff, the doorman, the housekeeper, all describing Elara as erratic, withdrawn, possibly mentally ill. This is a woman who is not equipped to raise a child, Marcus concluded. And my client, as the father, has every right to ensure his daughter is placed in a stable, healthy environment. Riley watched the press conference with Elara. Her face was grim. They're good. I'll give them that. They're using your vulnerability against you. So what do? We get our own experts. Therapists who can testify that pregnancy hormones and emotional abuse explain your behavior. That you were reacting normally to an abnormal situation. Riley made notes, and we lean into the sympathy angle. You're not unstable. You're a survivor. Over the next 48 hours, the media war intensified. Every day brought new revelations. Former employees coming forward. Suspicious business deals examined. Offshore accounts investigated. But Silas fought back hard. His lawyers filed motions. His PR team planted stories. Anonymous sources claimed Elara had affairs, financial problems, a history of lying. The court of public opinion was split. Some people saw Elara as brave. Others saw her as vindictive. Through it all, Elara stayed in the hotel suite, watched her belly grow, felt her daughter move, and tried not to drown in the chaos. Mrs. Higgins visited, brought food, held Elara while she cried. He fired me, the old nanny said quietly. Yesterday. Said I was disloyal for helping you. I'm so sorry. Don't be. I should have left that house years ago. Should have left when Margaret died, and I saw what kind of man Silas was becoming. Mrs. Higgins touched Elara's belly. This little one deserves better than growing up in that glass cage. What if the judge doesn't see it that way? What if they believe Silas? Then you fight. You keep fighting until they have no choice but to see the truth. On day 3 after the article published, something unexpected happened. Arthur Sterling held his own press conference. The man who'd partnered with Silas to destroy Elara's father stood behind a podium, looking 20 years older than his actual age. Beside him stood Genevieve, her face pale, her eyes red. "I want to apologize," Arthur said, his voice shaking. "To Elara Thorne, to her father Thomas, to everyone hurt by my actions." The reporters erupted with questions. Arthur raised his hand for silence. "The contract Ms. Thorne revealed is real. I signed it. I helped Silas Vane orchestrate the destruction of Thomas Thorne's company. I did it because I believed it was just business. I believed the ends justified the means." He paused, seemed to gather himself. "But watching my daughter almost marry a man like that, watching him manipulate her the same way he manipulated Ms. Thorne, I realized I'd become the kind of man I always despised. So I'm here to do what I should have done months ago. Tell the truth." Arthur pulled out documents, emails, text messages, evidence of every illegal deal, every bribe, every conspiracy he and Silas had engaged in over 15 years of partnership. "I'm turning all of this over to the Manhattan District Attorney's Office. I'm prepared to testify against Silas Vane in any criminal proceedings, and I'm personally funding the restoration of Thomas Thorne's company. It won't fix what I broke, but it's a start." Genevieve stepped forward. Her voice was quiet but steady. "I want to add something. Silas Vane told me he loved me. That Elara was a mistake he was correcting. That we had a future together. All of it was lies. He used me to hurt Elara, to create chaos, to distract from his crimes. I was a pawn. Just like she was." She looked directly at the camera. "Elara, if you're watching this, I'm sorry. I should have believed you that night in LA. I should have listened instead of defending him. You tried to warn me, and I dismissed you. That was wrong. You deserve better. Your daughter deserves better." Elara watched the press conference from her hotel room. Tears streamed down her face. Riley sat beside her, gripping her hand. "This changes everything. With Sterling's testimony and evidence, the DA will definitely file charges, and if Silas is facing criminal prosecution, no judge will give him custody. It's really over." "The custody fight? Probably. The divorce. We still have to negotiate terms, but you have leverage now. Real leverage." That night, Elara slept for the first time in days. Deep, dreamless. Her daughter quiet inside her, as if she knew the worst of the storm had passed. She woke to sunlight and a text from an unknown number of, "You did it. You actually did it. Silas is finished, but be careful. Cornered animals are most dangerous." Elara texted back, "Are you going to tell me who you are now?" "Soon, when it's safe. But know this, you saved more than just yourself. You saved everyone he would have destroyed next. Thank you." Before Elara could respond, her phone rang. "Riley, turn on the news. Now." Elara grabbed the remote, flipped to CNN. Breaking news banner. "VRCLS vinar afdiadida kospionian siaj sakis." The footage showed Silas being led out of his office building in handcuffs. His face was a mask, emotionless. But his eyes betrayed him, genuine fear. For the first time since this nightmare began, Silas Vane looked like what he was: human, vulnerable, breakable. Elora placed both hands on her belly, felt her daughter kick strong and sure. "We did it, baby girl," she whispered. "We survived." But even as she said it, a small voice in the back of her mind whispered a warning. Silas was arrested, not convicted, not destroyed. And men like him didn't go down without taking everyone they could with them. 3 years later, Seattle. Elora stood backstage at the Washington State Convention Center, adjusting the collar of her charcoal power suit. Through the curtain, she could hear the crowd. 2,000 people. Investors, city planners, journalists, architects from around the world, all there to see her. A small hand tugged at her jacket. Elora looked down into eyes that were exactly like hers, brown, deep, knowing, mama nervous. Elora knelt, ignoring the protest from her knees, smoothed back the dark curls that refused to stay in their braids. "A little bit, baby. This is a big day." Cora Thorne was 3 years old, small for her age but fierce in every way that mattered. She had Elora's brown skin, her wide eyes, her stubborn chin. And yes, somewhere in the architecture of her face, there was Silas. The sharp cheekbones, the intensity of her gaze. But she was her mother's daughter. That's what everyone said. That's what mattered. "You're the strongest person I know," Cora said seriously, repeating the words Elora told her every night before bed. "You can do anything." Elora kissed her forehead. "We can do anything." Together, Maya appeared, looking elegant in a cream dress. "They're ready for you. And Cora's sitter is here to take her to the green room." Elora handed Cora to the young woman who'd been watching her daughter for the past 6 months. A architecture student from the University of Washington. Trustworthy. Kind. Nothing like the nannies Silas would have hired. "Be good, baby." "Always am." Elora watched her daughter disappear backstage, then turned to Maya. "How do I look?" "Like someone who survived hell and came back stronger." Maya adjusted Elora's lapel pin. A small phoenix. Her signature now. "Go show them what you're made of." The stage lights were blinding. Elora walked to the podium, her heels clicking on the polished floor. The crowd quieted. She looked out at 2,000 faces, saw reporters with cameras, saw her father in the 3rd row, his eyes shining with pride, saw Riley Chen and Veronica Reeves sitting together, both smiling. And in the very back, standing by the exit, she saw Mrs. Higgins, the elderly woman who'd risked everything to help her escape, who now lived in a small apartment Elora rented for her in Capitol Hill. Spending her days volunteering at a women's shelter, Elora cleared her throat. "Began 3 years ago. I was 6 months pregnant, homeless, and running from a man who'd weaponized my love against me. I had nothing. No money, no home. No idea if I'd survive long enough to meet my daughter." The room was silent. Everyone knew her story. It had been front-page news, a cautionary tale about power and abuse. Today, I stand before you as the founder and CEO of Thorne Ecosystems. We've designed sustainable urban spaces in 12 cities. We've created jobs for over 300 people. And we're about to break ground on the largest carbon-neutral residential community in the Pacific Northwest. Applause rippled through the crowd. Elora held up a hand. "But this isn't a success story about business. It's a story about what happens when you refuse to let someone else write your ending. When you take the worst thing that ever happened to you and transform it into purpose. She clicked to the first slide. An architectural rendering of the new Seattle community. Glass towers wrapped in living gardens. Solar panels. Rainwater collection systems. Community spaces designed for connection, not isolation. We're calling it Phoenix Gardens, because sometimes you have to burn down completely before you can rise. For the next 40 minutes, Elara presented her vision. The crowd was captivated. When she finished, the applause was thunderous. During the Q&A, a young journalist raised her hand. Ms. Thorne, there are rumors that your ex-husband's company is interested in bidding on this project. How do you respond? Elara's smile was cool. Professional Vane Industries is welcome to submit a proposal like any other firm. But I should mention that part of our selection criteria includes a thorough background check on all potential partners. We don't work with companies that have documented histories of fraud, conspiracy, or ethical violations. The room erupted in knowing laughter. The journalist grinned. Another hand. An older man. What about custody? We know your ex-husband fought for full custody. How did that turn out? Elara had been waiting for this question. Had prepared for it. My daughter's father was convicted on multiple counts of fraud and conspiracy 3 years ago. He served 18 months in federal prison and was released 6 months ago. As part of his parole, he's required to attend therapy and maintain employment. He currently works as a property manager for a small real estate firm in Brooklyn. She paused. Let that sink in. Silas Vane, once a billionaire, now managing apartment buildings for someone else. A's for custody. We have a court-approved arrangement. He sees our daughter twice a month. Supervised visits. He's never missed one. And I'll give him credit for that. Whatever else he is, he's trying to be present for her. It was more generous than he deserved. But Elara had learned that grace wasn't about what people deserved. It was about who you chose to be. After the presentation, Elara stood in the convention center lobby, shaking hands and accepting congratulations. Her father approached, tears in his eyes. Your mother would be so proud, he whispered. I'm so proud. I couldn't have done it without you, Dad. And it was true. After Arthur Sterling had funded the restoration of Thomas Thorne architecture, her father had become her first investor, her mentor, her partner. They'd rebuilt together, father and daughter, stronger than before. Riley appeared with champagne. To the woman who broke the glass ceiling by refusing to live in a glass cage. They toasted, laughed, celebrated. Veronica joined them, her arm around a beautiful woman with kind eyes. Her girlfriend, a professor at Columbia. Veronica had found love after all, had learned to trust again, Elara said to Veronica. For everything. For the contract. For the evidence. For showing me I could fight back. You would have fought anyway, Veronica replied. I just gave you better weapons. As the celebration continued, Elara slipped away. Found Cora in the green room, drawing pictures with her sitter. Mama? Cora held up her artwork. I drew our new building. The drawing was abstract, colorful, completely imperfect, beautiful. It's perfect, baby. Is Daddy coming to see it? Elara's chest tightened. Cora asked about Silas sometimes. Not often, but enough that Elara had learned to answer honestly without bitterness. I don't know, sweetheart. Probably not. But you'll see him this weekend. Okay. Cora went back to drawing, unbothered, resilient. She was too young to understand what her father had done. Too young to know he'd tried to destroy her before she was born. Someday, Elora would tell her. Gently. Honestly, but not yet, for now. Cora just knew she had a mama who loved her fiercely, and a daddy she saw sometimes who was trying his best. That evening, Elara returned to the brownstone she'd purchased in Capitol Hill. Nothing like the Manhattan penthouse. This house was warm, filled with plants and books and Cora's toys scattered across every surface. Home. She put Cora to bed, reading 3 stories instead of the usual one, because her daughter's negotiation skills were formidable. Mama, do you think Daddy still loves you? The question came out of nowhere. Elora set down the book. I think your daddy loved the idea of me, but he didn't know how to love the real me. Does that make sense? Cora frowned. Not really. Someday it will. Elora kissed her forehead. Sleep tight, my Phoenix girl. After Cora fell asleep, Elora stood at the window, looking out at the Seattle skyline. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. But Elora recognized it now. Congratulations on Phoenix Gardens. You did it. You really did it. Elora smiled. Over the past 3 years, the mysterious texter had revealed themselves piece by piece. A former employee of Silas's. Someone who'd watched him destroy people for years and finally found the courage to help bring him down. They'd never met in person. Maybe they never would. But this anonymous ally had become a strange kind of friend. Thank you. For everything. For starting this. You started it. I just gave you the match. You burned down his empire all by yourself? Not by myself. Never by myself. A pause. Then. There's something you should know. Silas is planning to attend the Phoenix Gardens, groundbreaking next month. He wants to see you. Elora's stomach twisted. Why? I don't know. But I thought you should be prepared. The groundbreaking ceremony was scheduled for early December. Cold. Gray. Very Seattle. Elora stood on the muddy construction site, surrounded by city officials and investors, and her entire team. Cora wore a tiny hard hat and held a child-sized shovel, ready to help her mama break ground. The speeches were made, the photos taken, the symbolic shovels lifted. That's when Elora saw him, standing at the edge of the crowd, wearing a coat that had seen better days, hair longer than she remembered, face thinner, older. Silas. Their eyes met across 50 feet of construction site. Time seemed to stop. He didn't approach. Just stood there, watching. After the ceremony, after the photographs and interviews and celebrations, Elora found him still standing in the same spot. Cora was with Maya, safe and distracted. Elora walked over, stopped 5 feet away. They hadn't spoken since his arrest. 3 years of silence between them. You came, she said finally. I wanted to see it. What you built. His voice was different, quieter, less certain. You mean what I built from the ashes of what you destroyed? He flinched. Yes? That. Silence stretched between them. Cold rain began to fall. She's beautiful, Silas said, nodding toward where Cora played. A daughter. My daughter? You're just the man she sees twice a month. I know. He looked at his shoes. Elora, Don't apologize. Don't explain. Don't try to rewrite history. I wasn't going to. He looked up. His gray eyes were different now. Less ice. More human. I was going to say thank you? What? For not keeping her from me. After everything I did, you could have? Probably should have. But you let me seed her. Let me try to be something resembling a father. I didn't do it for you. I did it for her. Every child deserves a chance to know their parent, even if that parent is. She trailed off. A monster. I was going to say broken, but monster works too. Silas nodded, seemed to accept that. Prison changed me. Therapy changed me. Losing everything changed me. I'm not the man I was. Good. That man was terrible. I know. He pulled something from his pocket. An envelope. Held it out. I wrote this 2 years ago. My therapist said I should give it to you when I was ready. I don't know if I'm ready. But I'm doing it anyway. Ilara took the envelope. Didn't open it. What is it? Everything I should have said 3 years ago. Everything I couldn't say. Because I didn't have the words. Or the courage. Or the humanity. He stepped back. I should go. I just wanted you to know. What you've built here. It's incredible. And I'm sorry I tried to destroy you before you could build it. He turned to leave. Silas. He stopped. Looked back. That lipstick. Paris Rose. You really didn't remember, did you? His face crumpled. Just slightly. No, I didn't. And that's maybe the worst part. You remembered everything. I remembered nothing. That's not love. That's not even respect. That's just cruelty. Yeah, it was. I'm sorry, Ilara. For all of it. For who I was. For what I did. For every night you spent alone in that glass cage I built. You deserved so much better. I know I did. That's why I left. He nodded. Walked away through the rain. Ilara watched him go. This man who'd once seemed invincible. Now, just another person, trying to survive the wreckage of his own choices. She felt no satisfaction, no triumph. Just a quiet, settled peace. That evening, Ilara opened the envelope. Inside was a letter. Handwritten. Pages and pages of it. She read it while Cora slept beside her. One small hand curled against Ilara's chest. The letter was everything. An apology. An explanation that didn't excuse. An acknowledgement of every cruelty, every manipulation, every moment he'd chosen power over humanity. But it was the ending that made Ilara cry. You told me once that I lost the only person who saw my soul. You were right. But what you didn't know is that there was no soul to see. I'd traded it years ago for money and power and success. I was hollow all the way down. And then you came. You were kind, gentle, real. Everything I'd forgotten how to be. And instead of letting you teach me, instead of learning from you, I tried to destroy you. Because that's what hollow men do. They destroy anything that reminds them of what they've lost. You saved yourself. But you also saved our daughter from becoming what I am. And for that, I'll spend the rest of my life being grateful. I don't expect forgiveness. I don't deserve it. But I want you to know you were right. The math didn't add up. I calculated your love in numbers. I missed everything that actually mattered. Thank you for showing me what I lost. Thank you for being strong enough to walk away. Thank you for being the woman our daughter will grow up wanting to beach. You didn't just survive me, Ilara. You transcended me. And that's the most remarkable thing I've ever witnessed. Shh. Silas. Ilara folded the letter, placed it in a drawer where someday, when Cora was old enough, she could read it and understand that even broken people could recognize their failures. She kissed her daughter's forehead, watched her sleep. This beautiful, fierce, perfect child who would grow up knowing her mother was a fighter. A survivor. A woman who'd turned devastation into destiny. The next morning, Alara stood on her balcony with coffee. Watching the sun rise over Seattle, her phone rang. Maya. Have you seen the news? What now? Arthur Sterling just announced a foundation. The Alara Thorne Foundation. $20 million dedicated to helping women escape abusive relationships and rebuild their careers. He's naming you as the honorary chair. Elara's breath caught. He did what? Check your email. He wants to meet. Says it's the least he can do after the damage he caused. Later that day, Alara sat across from Arthur Sterling in a coffee shop. The man looked 10 years younger than he had at his press conference. His eyes were clear. Present. I destroyed your family to make money, he said without preamble. I'm spending the rest of my life trying to make that right. Not just for you. For everyone I hurt while climbing to the top. Why? Because my daughter asked me a question. She said, Dad, when you die, what do you want people to remember about you? And I realized I didn't have a good answer. So I'm creating one. Alara studied him. This foundation. It's real, not a PR stunt. It's real, and I want you involved. Help me decide who to help. How to help them. Make sure the money goes to women who actually need it, not just photogenic victims who look good in press releases. Alara thought about it. About all the women still trapped in glass cages. Still married to men like sealers. Still believing they had no way out. I'll help. But on one condition. Name it. We'll hire Veronica Reeves as director. She knows what it's like. She'll make sure we actually help people instead of just feeling good about ourselves. Arthur smiled. Already done. I asked her last week. She accepted. 6 months later, the Alara Thorne Foundation opened its doors. They helped 43 women in the first month alone. Provided legal support, housing, job training, therapy. Alara visited when she could. Talked to women who reminded her of herself 3 years ago. Scared. Broken. Believing they'd never be anything more than what their abusers said they were. She told them all the same thing. You're already more than that. You just don't know it yet. But you will, I promise. You will. On Cora's 4th birthday, Alara threw a party in her backyard. Invited everyone who'd helped them survive. Riley, Veronica, Mrs. Higgins, Maya her father, the team from Phoenix Gardens, even Diane Whittaker, the journalist who'd told her story with such care. They ate cake, sang songs, watched Cora blow out her candles and make a wish. What did you wish for? Alara asked. Can't tell you. Won't come true. Later, after everyone left and Cora was asleep, Alara sat in her garden. The one she designed herself. Full of native plants and flowers that bloomed in the rain. Her phone buzzed. The anonymous number. One last message. I'm signing off now. You don't need me anymore. You never really did. But it was an honor watching you rise. Take care of yourself, Alara. And remember, you didn't just survive. You showed everyone else how to survive too. That's your legacy. Alara texted back, Sesh, thank you for being there when I needed someone, even if I never knew who you were. You're welcome. Now go live your extraordinary life. You've earned it. The number went dark. No more messages. No more mysterious help. Alara was truly on her own now. But she wasn't alone. She had Cora, her father, her friends, her work, her purpose, and she had herself. Stronger than she'd ever been, braver than she'd ever imagined. That night, Alara wrote in her journal, something she'd started doing in therapy and never stopped. Dear Cora, someday you'll read this. Someday you'll ask me about your father, about what happened, about why we don't live together like other families. And I'll tell you the truth, that I married a man who didn't know how to love, that he hurt me in ways I'm still healing from, that I almost let him destroy me. But I'll also tell you this, he gave me you, and you are the best thing that ever happened to me. And you'll ask if I forgive him. And I'll tell you that forgiveness isn't about him. It's about me choosing not to carry his poison anymore. It's about building something beautiful from the ashes of something terrible. You'll ask if I'm happy. And I'll show you Phoenix Gardens, the foundation, the women we've helped, the life we've built. And I'll tell you, yes, baby girl, I'm happy. Because I learned something your father never could. Love isn't about possession. It's about liberation. And the moment I liberated myself from him was the moment I finally learned how to fly. Love always, your mama. Ella closed the journal, looked out at the Seattle skyline glittering in the darkness. Tomorrow, she'd wake up and build something new. Help someone who needed it. Be the woman her daughter was already proud of. But tonight, she simply sat in her garden and breathed. Alive. Free. Whole. The glass empire had fallen. The phoenix had risen. And Ella Thorne was just getting started. Sometimes the greatest revenge isn't destruction. It's transformation. It's becoming so luminous, so powerful, so undeniably successful that your past becomes a footnote in your extraordinary future. This is Alara's story, but it's also the story of every woman who refused to let someone else define her worth, who walked through fire and emerged not broken, but forged into something unbreakable. This. For every woman still trapped in her glass cage, your story isn't over. Your wings are just waiting to unfold. Rise.